What's up, everybody? My name is Josh LaFleur from Late Start Piano. Today, we're going to be talking about how to actually perform better at the piano. And when I say perform, I'm talking about specifically playing a piece in front of other people. So it doesn't matter if you're doing it on video, if you're doing it on a big stage in front of thousands of people, if you're doing it on a live stream, if you're doing it for your cousin who's in town for the day and it's just you two. Whatever it is, these tips are designed to help you play better in front of other people, no matter how you're doing that, whether in person, whether it's 1,000 people, one person, or online. So if that sounds good to you, then we're going to get into this without further ado. Point number one, and this is the biggest kind of hypothesis of this entire video, is you need to make your practicing more difficult than the actual performance piece. And the rest of this video is going to be about different ways that you can do that. But the big takeaway from this is you need to make your practicing more difficult than the actual performance itself, right? So the performance itself, usually it's a little bit more controlled. Things are a little bit more in your favor. So for example, maybe you've already warmed up, maybe you've already played on that piano before, you don't have any kind of distractions, you're not at home, for example, and you don't have your kids all over you or your pets that are all over you, and you're just in the optimal environment. Ideally, when you perform, that's the way we're trying to get, right? Everything is warm, temperature is good. So how do we counteract this? How do we make all that more difficult than the performance itself? First thing you can do is change the lighting. So if you normally practice in a very well lit area with the windows open, one suggestion that you can do is practice in a little bit of a darker environment. Maybe it's a little bit harder even to actually see the keys. I'm not saying practice in the complete dark where you can't see anything, but just change the lighting. The point of this is just to change your environment, right? Make something different that's kind of throwing your brain off mentally, because you want to get this to be more difficult than the performance piece itself. Or if you're expecting to perform maybe in a lower lit area, then turn the lights up, get it really bright, put a little spotlight like a ring light like I have, and blast it on you or the keys just to add the extra light to make it more difficult for you. Or you could go the other way as well. If you're expecting it to be a lower lit or a higher lit environment, let's say the performance is going to be lower lit, go even lower. So if it's going to be like a regular light in the performance room, go even lower. Try to dim the light, make it even more dark in the room so that your practicing is harder than the performance piece. Another thing that you can do is if you do have pets at home, bring them in the room on your practice session. So normally if you know that your performance, you're not going to have your pets around, there's not going to be any dogs or cats in the room. When you're practicing at home, bring them in. Bring them in your practice room, put your cat right on your lap, have your dog come in and lie down right next to you. Maybe he's on your foot or something like that. Maybe he's giving you kisses on your leg while you're trying to play, right? Any kind of distractions that you can add is the goal. So you can add that in. And then if you can still play the piece perfectly and you can still play the piece really well with a cat on your lap and your dog is barking every 30 seconds and you can still play it really well and you can still stay focused, then it's going to help you to make things much more easier when it's actually time to perform and you don't have those distractions. Another thing you can do is have a window open. Even if you're in a cold environment like I am, I live in the northeast part of the US and it's February, so it's cold. It's cold, it's windy, and it's dark. So one of the things that I could do is I could open up the window so that my practice room right here gets really cold. And then the wind is coming in, and I'm hearing the horns of vehicles outside. I'm hearing people yell. There's got landscapers who are plowing because we have a ton of snow. I hear all these outside distractions. Again, it's cold. I'm feeling the cold wind. If I can still play a piece perfectly with those conditions, then when I'm in a very warm environment and I don't have that extra outside noise again, then my performance is going to be a lot better. Because if I can play it in a more difficult environment, when I get in an easier environment, I'm going to be able to play just as well, if not even better. Another thing you can do, this one's a little bit tougher, but if you can, it's super, super helpful, is if you can practice on a different instrument, right? And I don't mean obviously piano to saxophone. I'm talking about normally I practice on this piano right behind me. This is my at-home piano. If I had a performance coming up within a few months, I would try to rent out a music room, or I would try to go to a friend's house with a different piano, or try to find a public piano, one that I have never played on before, sit down at this brand new piano and try to play my performance piece. Because we all know as piano players that different pianos feel a little bit different, right? Some it feels like you have to press down more on the keys. Some are a little bit more sensitive, where you press down a key and maybe it's louder than you anticipated. And overall, it's just a different feel. Something to get used to, something to practice. Maybe you're going from electric to acoustic. So that's another change you'd have to think about. If it's possible for you, I would try to practice on a different piano, because their performance piano, whatever piano you're going to actually be playing on in front of other people, you might not have access to. You might not have access to until the day of the performance. So one way that you can work up to this is to practice on a bunch of different pianos before your performance day, so that when you're playing on that brand new piano for the first time, it doesn't feel as difficult again, because you have been practicing this and you have been getting ready for that mentally as well. Physically, but also mentally. Mentally is probably even more important than the physical part of playing on a different piano. Another thing you can do to make it more difficult, again, these are just all ideas that you can use to implement to make your practice harder, so that your performance day, things are much more controlled, things are much easier, it's going to feel a lot better, and it's going to kill some of the nerves that you might have on your performance day. So another thing that you can do for this is you can do it late at night, practice late at night or early in the morning. So I find this really helpful as well, because obviously when you first wake up, or if it's late at night, you're feeling pretty tired, you're feeling pretty groggy, maybe your brain is kind of foggy, right? You can't really focus, you're not as sharp as you are at the beginning of the day or halfway through the day. And if you can sit down at your piano, and again, if it's midnight, if it's 11 p.m., if it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and you don't warm up at all, and you just sit down at those times and you can play your piece perfectly, and you can play it at that performance level, then you're going to be in really good shape when you are hyper focused on your performance on that performance day. And again, it's going to make your performance a lot better, a lot easier, and it's going to help you just be much more confident and much more brave if you've never done it before on that performance day. It's going to help you a bunch. So another idea. We've kind of already talked about the cold and hot. Again, you can turn the heat way up if you can, make it super hot in the room and then try to play. You can open a window if you live in a cold part of the country like I do, or if you don't live in a cold part of the country, try to get a fan that's blowing on you or something like that. Or even what you can do is just put your hands in some cold water. So turn the faucet on in the bathroom with cold water. Leave your hands in there for like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, 30 seconds. Dry them off, and then go ahead and try to play your piece, right? Because if you can play with cold hands, again, if you can play with cold hands, you can play your piece without any warm up. You can just sit down and play it. It's going to make everything easier on performance day. And the background noise we've talked about as well. So opening the window, I think, is the best, because you get that cold air, you get the breeze, you get the landscapers outside, you get the horns of trucks and cars and sirens going by. So I think opening the window is the best if you can. If you don't have a window in your practice room, or maybe it's just too cold and it's like 10 below and you can't open up a window, next best thing for the background noise is something like a TV. So put a TV on, put your phone on, put on some kind of YouTube video that's really loud, maybe people talking, some kind of background noise video, put on a podcast, put on whatever, anything else that will distract you from your playing. And you can even put that on like a speaker, a Bluetooth speaker, put the speaker right next to you while you're playing. Preferably maybe some kind of talking video, not musical, so that you don't get too mixed up. But somebody talking, like a radio show, would be really good, right? Something like that. And again, those are just a few ideas for you to kind of figure out how to make your practicing more difficult than your performance. So when the performance day actually arrives, you don't have any nerves about it. You are completely good to go. And it's actually going to be easier for you than what you're doing. Of course, you want to have a little bit more time. So if you can implement these strategies 6 months in advance before you're playing, or 3 months in advance, or even a week, when you go to play again, it's going to make things much more simple, much easier for you. If you're only practicing your performance in ideal environments, so after you've played the piece 100 times, after you're completely warm, there's no distractions, the temperature is perfect, there's no windows open, it's the same instrument you're always used to practicing on. If that's the only way you're practicing for your performance piece, performance day is going to be nerve wracking because now your performance is going to be different, right? You're going to have people listening to you, and it might be a different instrument, and it might be a different environment, and you're going to be nervous. So, some of those suggestions I just made, if you can implement them while you're practicing before performance day, it's going to help you kill your performance and do a great job. So, with all that said, in addition, I do have a free guide on my website. Link is down below. There's 34 essential tips for the brand new adult beginner piano player to help you get good at piano as fast as possible. We talk about mindset and approach, practice strategies, music theory, and at the end, we'll walk you through how to play your first song. To get that, just click on the link below. In addition, I am offering lessons right now via Zoom, one-on-one lessons. To get started with those, send me an email. Again, email is down below in the description, and we'll set up a day and a time that works best for you. Happy practicing. My name is Josh LaFleur with Late Start Piano.